Welcome to the InGoal Radio Podcast, episode 321, presented by our friends over at the Hockey Shop source for sports. I am Kevin Woodley, and I've probably already got you confused, because it usually takes me a good 30 seconds before I try and get a word in edgewise on our host, Darren Millard, who is not here today. Special assignment, and that special assignment involves travel with the Vegas Golden Knights, training camps. Hutch, David Hutchison, co-founder of InGoal Magazine, as Darren Millard always likes to say, I believe actually founder of InGoal Magazine would be the proper way of saying it, is here with me. Training camps are underway, which means Mr. Millard is just jam-packed right now this weekend, could not join us. It's an exciting time for NHL teams, for NHL prospects, for NHL goaltenders, but also for junior kids. The show is underway. The WHL started last night. How's she going? That means Hockey Dad mode is fully activated for you.
I hit my stress mode again. I stand here every week and I deliver soliloquies for parents to tell you how to remain sane and enjoy the game, and I'm not very good at it myself. It's a struggle for all of us, and I get a little bit stressed watching my kid play just because you want him to be happy and you want him to do well. Thank you for calling me the founder, but I think the truth is I started InGoal before you, but I was lost and you found me and we figured it all out together. So
is that why we're co-founders? So,
yeah, that's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Because I took part as in a Founders to Fairways golf docuseries with your nephew, David Stark, and played a round of golf. And he asked me about that because Darren always introduces us as co-founders. And I explained, this is interestingly enough, was at Bear Mountain Golf Course.
Okay.
36-hole course designed by Jack Nicklaus. For those that don't know, on beautiful Vancouver Island. It is a gorgeous spot. This is where this event was going on. They were recording us and doing interviews as we were playing golf. And I play golf a little worse than I actually play goal. So you can imagine how bad that would be. And we had a great day. But there were a lot of tie-ins. As I explained the story of founder-co-founder to him, I had to also explain that we met for the first time at Bear Mountain Golf Course at a coffee shop owned, at the time, by former NHL goaltender Trevor Kidd, and that my background was actually pre-goaltending, was as a golf writer. In addition to covering the NHL, I did some PGA Tour writing and a lot of magazine and travel golf writing, and that included touring the Bear Mountain Golf Course in an SUV while they were still routing and cutting the first of the two Jack Nicklaus designed courses. And in that SUV with me were the original founder of Bear Mountain, Len Barry, and his partner, one of, I believe, over a dozen NHLers to be involved in the project, now Hall of Famer, Mike Vernon. So it was a full day of goaltending and golf colliding on the Bear Mountain Golf Course this week. And it all started with a conversation about whether you were the founder. And now we know why Darren refers us. So this in typical Kevin fashion, I just spent 3 minutes and I haven't even introduced our guest. I just rambled. This is a special episode. We've got Erica Howe, longtime women's pro, two-time CWHL All-Star, played her final season a couple years ago in the inaugural PWHL season for the Toronto Scepters. National champion at Clarkson University, won a gold medal at the U18s with Canada, has, since retiring last year, been in a cancer battle that she went public with back in October, rang the bell late spring this year, and is now involved with our friends October Saves and raising awareness and raising funds. So we have a fantastic conversation coming up with her, an emotional at times conversation as she shares both her cancer journey and her journey in the game of goaltending, and those worlds colliding, lessons from both that are invaluable for everyone. So make sure you stay tuned for our feature interview this week featuring Erica Howe. But first, Hutch, we go to, I want to start there. I'm throwing, curveball.
Curveball.
We're going to throw you the parent segment right away. We're going to switch.
We're going to catch the curve.
We're going to switch things up here, buddy. We're switching it up mostly because I'm stalling before I can get to the Hockey Shop source for sports, our presenting sponsor, and the Hockey Shop's gear segment this week is the CCM Vision Stick. But I wanted to throw it to you because we've already had far too much of me. The parent segment this week, of course, is brought to you by our friends over at Stop It Goaltending. Stop It Goaltending, and the Stop It Goaltending U app. Daily primers this week, habits including on and off the ice. A goalie systems breakdown on high slot line passes, 16 minutes of video featuring NHL goalies, how best to manage it, and a behind the net wrap drill. All part of this week's content at the Stop It Goaltending U, the app. And of course, when you get Stop It Goaltending U, the app from the Stop It Goaltending crew, you also get full access to InGoal Magazine, ingoalmag.com, and all the content that we have coming out there. You know what you do, Hutch, to access the Stop It Goaltending U app?
You pick up your cell phone.
You pick up your cell phone. As I understand it, that is the topic of conversation for this week's parent segment. Take it away, my friend.
Oof, that's the second curveball you've thrown me. And if you don't warn your catcher you're throwing a curveball, you end up with a wild pitch or a pass ball, and it's not a good thing. Let's hope I can figure out how to block this one. Here we go.
Listen, did I say that I pitched even worse than I goaltended in golf? So my apologies.
Good, so it's a wild pitch and not a pass ball. It's your
That's
fault.
right.
At least we know that. All right, here we go. We are going to talk about cell phones today, and I will at some point figure out how to deal with your curveball, because sometimes they're good things, but sometimes we need to be careful about them. Cell phones have been on my mind for a while, Woody, since I got a note from InGoal listener Ted Penzition. Ted, I think I got your name pronunciation correct there, because I actually asked Woody. And he sent in this story, and here's what Ted wrote to me. He said, last year, I had an 11-year-old first full-year goalie, and we noticed that he was struggling with long shots. And shortly after one of your podcast discussions about eye training, I had an idea. For weeks, he would get dressed and play games on his phone before the coaches started their chalk talk. I deducted that perhaps his eyes were trained to focus at 18 inches. So one day he walked in with his dad, and I asked him to hand his phone to his father. He mumbled a bit, but then we did some eye exercises prior to taking the ice, and he pitched his first ever shutout. Literally his word pitched. It fits in with our little discussion there earlier. And now this young goalie is playing up a level, and he still gives his dad the phone whenever they enter the rink. So I'm glad that some of our content here on the pod inspired Ted, and I'm glad that he had the creativity to apply it to his particular situation. He's helped the young goalie, and it stuck with him, so that's really cool. Now, a couple of nights ago, I was at a junior game. Not my kid, not his league, and I spoke to a coach after the game. Then we saw one of the players go into the coach's room to collect his phone. You see, the team makes all the kids hand theirs in when they get to the rink. They tried to give the kids some freedom, but during exhibition season, they walked into the room between periods only to see most of these kids, age 16 to 20, sitting on their phones. The problem, it isn't just about young goalies, everybody. So Ted described for everybody a consequence that not everybody might imagine, and that's the effect on your vision. I think we can imagine the distraction and so on, but that tangible thing about vision, I think, was really cool for Ted to figure out. I wonder about attention span as well in a world where few of us can sit for more than a couple of minutes without our phones. I should tell everybody that we published a lengthy article from sports psychologist and goaltending coach John Stevenson over at InGoal Mag on the effect of phones. It's titled, "Is Your Phone Costing You Saves? Examining the effects of screen time on the eyes, brain, and stopping pucks." Go check it out over at ingoalmag.com if you're one of our subscribers. We will have it linked in the show notes for this week's podcast. So, as we embark on a new season, it's a much easier time as a family to set new standards and routines. So I'm raising this merely as a way to provoke some thought. I'm not here to tell you what to do. What you choose to do as a family and how you manage it on your own is, of course, your decision. I will say that many teams at the junior level either take the phones away or at least provide a place where they expect the players to leave their phones when they arrive at the rink, whether it's for games or practices. Now, younger teams may not wish to do this, but they choose to give the parents guidelines about phone use. I will say it is important to be present when you're at the rink. Practice time and game time, it's limited. Creating a good team culture is really important, and mentally preparing for every ice session is important. Being withdrawn on your phone is really not the way to achieve any of that. The list of negative effects of screen time are too lengthy to mention here, but John Stevenson does detail them in his article. He believes excessive screen time affects both your visual system and your ability to mentally process and read the game. So while I'm not here to suggest that you have to take your child's phone away as they enter the rink, that's your decision, I am here to encourage you to have a discussion with them. Of course, they want their phone with them, but what's the plan going to be for it? Because there's little question in my mind that before hitting the ice, their use is detrimental. The eyes really are the key to everything in goaltending, and treating them as an afterthought or even mindlessly engaging in an activity that at very least detracts from preparing the eyes for what is to come, it's a mistake when we do so much more to give ourselves and our kids every advantage. Expensive equipment, expensive lessons, proper physical warm-ups, proper nutrition, and more. So why ignore the potential detrimental effect of your phone? So I'm asking this week, what will your family phone policy be? What will you ask of your child? Will you be like Ted and his goalie who saw the link between the phone and performance and made a change for the better? Let me know. parents@ingoalmag.com.
I feel like this is one that's going to be a lot easier for the parents that are already goaltenders. You know, like the father-son, father-daughter, mother-daughter,
Okay.
mother-son relationship, because the adult in this discussion will be able to get fully dressed in goaltending gear before trying to pry the phone away from their young son or daughter. And I feel like in past moments where I've needed to do that, I've wanted all the protection I can have.
Oh, I see where you're going. Okay.
There's a fear factor of goaltending. Trust me, there's a fear factor in taking a phone away from a teenager, which, I mean, listen, jokes aside,
and that's why I said
I'm as
discussion.
guilty as anyone.
That's why I said discussion, right? Like, again, not telling anybody how to parent, but walking up to your child at the rink for the first time and saying, hand me your phone, I just heard on InGoal, it's a good thing to do, is setting yourself up for failure. A discussion 2 or 3 days before the next practice or game, maybe share some of the stuff from the article, maybe share Ted's story.
Never a bad thing to break the dependency. You talked about the junior kid running back to get his phone as soon as the game ended. It is, I mean, I'm living
Full
it
kit,
right
by
now.
the way, full kit. Like, most of the kids had gone into the dressing room and he literally still had his helmet on when he went in to get it. And I mean, maybe he had something urgent he had to, but I doubt it.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, listen, like, and this is not us judging the younger generation. Have a massive problem with the amount of time I spend on my phone right now. So yeah, that's it's an important lesson, and I love the way you framed it in terms of having a discussion about this rather than trying to dictate it. Like anything, when it comes to that parent-child sporting relationship, whether it's hockey or for me with my young daughter with volleyball, all you can do is lead them and hope that maybe when you get to the water, they have a sip.
Well, just imagine how well you would do if you went to your spouse and said, hand over your phone. It's you're on it too much. It's probably probably the discussion that would ensue with your child as well. So not easy.
Been on the other side of that one. I can tell you that recently as well. And you're right. Like instantly, you know it's right. You know they're correct, and yet the instinct is for your back to get up for sure.
Yeah,
right away.
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
of course.
We've got so much to get to in this episode, as always, packed with tons of stuff. But we did have some sad news this week, which I probably should have led with and forgot. Passing of Hall of Famer Ed Giacomin, famous of the New York Rangers, and before our time a little bit, Hutch, like in terms of having watched him play?
I watched a little bit of him. He kind of crossed over with Ken Dryden's era. People who watch this stuff carefully will probably tell me I'm right or wrong, and maybe I was just used to reading about him in books. What I loved about Ed was, I mean, it was masks that got me into my love of the game. It's masks what in many ways got us rolling here at InGoal. And in a time when people were just starting to apply paint to their masks, I remember Ed and his partner in New York, Gilles Villemur, had 2 incredibly distinctive yet unpainted masks, and 2 very different goaltenders, if I recall correctly. But other than that, I'm sorry to say that I don't have a great memory to share, but I do understand you got a note from one of our listeners.
Yeah, longtime listener and great supporter of InGoal Magazine, Chris Matola. And this is not an age shot like I delivered to Hutch with Dryden recently.
He's just a little older than me.
He's just a
Not
little
much.
older than us. And he sent a really nice note saying that he'd seen Ed Giacomin play a lot in person. Probably the best stick handler I've ever seen. And that was not something that I was familiar with. In the words of Chris, better than even Brodeur, especially when you consider the lumber that he had to use. So maybe a part of the game that we're not all intimately aware of because it was from a previous generation. It sounds like puck handling was a big part of what Ed Giacomin did so well.
And there was another little anecdote he shared there, I thought you said, which I had never heard of before.
Yeah, he said in warmups, he used to, and of course, Chris is as passionate as they come about the position, so he didn't just go to games to watch them play. He would have been a guy that watched warmups, and he said in warmups, he used to regularly catch pucks between his legs. It was something to behold.
That is amazing. You can just picture the stand-up goaltender trying to squeeze the wickets just perfectly. I can think there's probably going to be a few young goalies listening to this today that might try and pull that off in practice.
I think a bunch. My first instinct was like, hold on, what? Like he reached back between his legs and caught the puck? But now I know what we're talking about here. So yeah, you're right.
I've done that with a number of goalies. My son, who is a goofball mostly, but others, just challenge them to play like an older generation goaltender, somebody they've watched. As a way of, in a goofy sort of way, increasing athleticism. So let's see if there's some young goalies out there that want to try catching pucks between their legs this week.
Okay, send us your videos if you do. We'd like to highlight
awesome.
that. We'd also like to see the failed videos. Maybe I'll try and do it. Actually, enough pucks go between my legs already. That's probably not a good idea to encourage more. At least I would have an excuse. Guys, I was trying something. Like every time I go into the rink with new gear. It's just like a built-in excuse. One guy who didn't need any excuses, we may not have all immediately had a picture of Ed Giacomin, but we did when I mentioned Marty Bedard. I think everybody has, that distinct memory. Maybe some of the kids don't, because, hey, we're getting to a point now where some of these kids aren't quite sure who Carey Price is. But I think most of us in our generation obviously have a distinct image of Marty Bedard. And boy, was it fresh in my mind when we got to see this week's gear segment from our friends at the Hockey Shop Source for Sports. We're going to get into the new offering from CCM, which is a Heaton 10 tribute graphic, stock available off the rack in stores. Before we get to Cam and before we get to that breakdown, I got to tell you, it is remarkable to be in there in late September as everybody at the Hockey Shop Source for Sports is catching their breath after the madness of August and early September, everybody coming in and grabbing their gear, skates, fittings, sharpenings, new pads, everything. But to be in there and see the walls completely restocked and to see how much new stuff continues to come in. The CCM Vision Stick, we did a segment on that we'll have coming. There's a wicked new retro graphic swagger stick from Warrior that we've got coming up in coming weeks. That's new. This Heaton set that launched this weekend that we're going to talk about. So it doesn't matter what you need. Even in September, it's like Christmas every week I go in there. They've always got the latest and greatest available and a staff that is well educated on the features of all that equipment. And as always, we've talked about it before, when the new stuff comes in, and there's more coming from Brian's, new launch coming out in November. When the new stuff comes in, the old stuff is on sale. They have so much inventory there, even after the biggest sort of in-store sale period of the year. There's still plenty available, plenty of discounts. Hutch, how about some of that Pro Return stuff that we saw? We've got a segment that'll come out soon on the True Sticks.
Not only spectacular, but
CCM,
deals. Holy cow.
Incredible deal. CCM sticks, True Sticks. Make sure you check them out at thehockeyshop.com. As a matter of fact, I'm a little worried about this. I'm telling everybody to go check it out. They might sell some of this stuff. There was so much new stuff. We recorded 6 segments during our recent visit. I'm worried about them selling out of some of the gear before we actually get to feature it on the show. That's how much new equipment, whether it's pro stock return or pro returns or new launches or just things we're still catching up from the summer, are in store and available at the Hockey Shop Source for Sports, thehockeyshop.com. Make sure you go check it out, including, and we'll hear it from Cam now, this week's gear segment, the all-new CCM 7.9 And you'll hear in a minute why I highlight that Heaton 10 graphic.
Ooh. Kicking it old school. That is. If we had a little cardboard down here, I'd get down there and break dance. Welcome back to the Hockey Shop Source for Sports. You want to see that, don't you? I'm Cam. Today we're breaking in and not dancing. Heaton. CCM. Heaton 10s. Heaton 10s. Is there a little graphic on the back there? Probably not. It's a long ways away, but Heaton 10s. So that's a good look. It is a good look. Now, I feel like I can make some skate saves in these. Bonus points in the comments below if you can comment exactly what year this came out in. We'll leave that one blank for a second. Do we need to ask them who wore it most prominently? Especially in these colors? Is that obvious? It could be, but yeah, go ahead. He's on the Mount Rushmore. That's fine. He's on the Mount Rushmore of goaltending. Yeah, absolutely. One of the GOATs. See, you know what? It's funny. I thought of our good old local boy, Dan Cloutier. Yeah, I'm pretty sure everyone's going to Marty Britter on this one, buddy. But good for you. Cloutier. Good for you for, keeping it Canucks. Vasatosla. As we unveil very Devils Mika Kipsprasov. Done. Welcome back to the Hockey Shop Source for Sports, where we are talking about the CCM EFlex 7 Heaton custom graphics. 7.9. Now available at retail. You know what? Hold on. Okay. You didn't hear that a lot when Marty was in net. Nothing went in. If that sounded like a goal horn to you. I apologize for the PTSD if it did. Continue. Are you telling me these are 7.9s? This is 7.9. Honest to God, did not know, did not plan, asked you coming in. I'm like, oh, this is an EFlex 7, which is another testament to the fact of how little difference there is between the 7 and the 7.9. So there we go. That little aside, unplanned aside, I didn't even realize this was 7.9. There you go. You also let the viewers in on a little secret is that we just do this live. We do not write a script here. Well, I mean, there's absolutely no planning. I learn as I go. Wow. Okay. So there we go. So there you go. You've already been blown away. Price points are very reasonable on this as well. So this is giving you that option to get that kind of vintage style look. So this does fall in lines with some of the other things that we have seen, resurgence of the reactor graphic, things like that. Yep. However, this graphic looks super sick. One color for now. So it's just in the Devil's Birder colors. Cam cannot relive his Dan Cloutier fantasies. I wish. But if you did want to, you could go up to the EFlex 7 and order their all-out custom print, which is an option. Right. And change your colors. But anyway, that's neither here nor there because we are talking about the 7.9 equipment specifically. So you have the pads, and we have covered the 7.9 in the past, but we can do a quick overview of the pad just to make sure everyone's up to speed. So first of all, looking to the back, again, same as at 7.9. There are no fundamental spec changes to the pad itself. You still have our QMSS3 overall calf wrap. Includes a new slide. CGT slide technology. Yes. Which really does feel great on the ice. Can't even notice that. Look at the Heaton on the side. More importantly now, again, we're talking about some of the actual graphic features of the pad itself. So yes, you do get that old school Heaton logo. Honestly, we can just send them back to the 7.9 overview and the 7 overview. You can find, we don't need to go into all the details. That's what you're getting here. You're getting it in a Heaton look. You can get it in what sizes? So intermediate and senior. So that same sizing curve that you see in that 7.9, for example, all the way through. So stock, same blocker, no changes there, but still you get the slick graphic. And then you still get their new 580 builds in the glove. Single T, skate lace pocket, and great overall closure right out of the box. And look, Heaton. And Heaton. I like that. Okay, so lower price point, great gear, and a stylish retro look. All available off the rack. No need to custom order. They have it in stock here at the Hockey Shop Source for Sports at thehockeyshop.com. If you have questions about some of the specs, some of the sizing, anything to do with this gear or any gear, call Cam and his crew. 604-589-8299 or 1-800-567-7790 or check us out at thehockeyshop.com. Cam's so excited that he couldn't slow down. Marty Turco, there's another one that wore that Heaton graphic. At sure Belfour, he didn't wear it in this color? No, but I'm just, the other names that come to mind. I'm just reminiscing on the golden years. Marty, don't worry. He's also a fan of you. We'll have him send a personal apology.
Okay, so a couple things I got to clarify here. First, I think earlier in the show, I was so excited about all the new equipment that I teased the Vision, the CCM VIZION stick as our gear segment this week, and then dropped the Heaton 10 line on you. We'll have the Vision stick within the next couple of weeks, folks. I promise. It is definitely going to be worth the wait. And like I said, it's available right now if you have questions. Yeah, no pun intended on the worth the wait thing.
Oh, yes. If you could envision that stick, it is beautiful.
Okay, this is a dangerous road we're going down here, Mr. Hutchison, the king of the dad jokes. I can't keep up to you when it comes to those, so I'm not even going to try. So if I teased you and you got all excited, go check it out online at thehockeyshop.com because they've got it in store, available online now. And they've got a staff that can answer any of your questions. So what was the first thing that jumped out to you when you saw those Heaton pads?
It's time to get my gear on again.
Ooh, this is something I like to hear.
Yeah, like seriously, they're absolutely gorgeous. And I mean, now you get... I would love to wear those pads because it's such an iconic name, such an iconic look. In my mind, I can puck handle like Brodeur, although there is no chance I come even close. Just try and envision that. But yeah, they are so beautiful. If you play on a team that is red and black, or you can have any excuse to wear red and black, I think you're going to want these. But then afterwards, it was the fact that they're so affordable.
Yeah, you heard it there in the segment, folks. And just a reminder to go check it out because if you thought I was putting you on when you heard it and that I was acting, that I was shocked by it, go to the YouTube channel. You'll see how genuine it is. And actually, interestingly enough, on the back of the leg panel or the leg channel on the inner, it has that sort of like embossed. It just says EFlex 7, not 7.9. And I had the pads in front of me and I genuinely thought this was an EFlex 7 product, which it speaks to two things. One, how small the margins are between 7 and 7.9, what a value 7.9 is, their second price point product with CCM this year. It's easily the nicest that they've had. It's the best iteration of that version that they've had at CCM. And just how close it is and how much money you can save. And in this case, get an extra look. Now, the one thing that did jump out at me, especially after Cam, after the fact, realized that he had a Brodeur figurine in his office hoisting the Stanley Cup. Would have been nice, Cam, to know that we could have had it over our shoulders, little Marty whispering in our ears as we talked about his new gear. But seeing the Brodeur statue and noticing, and of course there wasn't, but his Heatons had like no thigh rise whatsoever. It basically ended at the top of the knees. And then seeing that pattern on the modern pads, I'm like, oh, thank God for thigh rises.
Yeah, yes, I'm not going to order them in the size that I used to wear gear.
Can I get a 34 minus 3?
Yeah, no, I'd be the 30 minus 3 because the pads behind me, those brown pads, my kid and Adam was wearing pads that size. So things have changed a lot, haven't they? I think this is also a good time to remind people, maybe you can get it up on the socials this week, that we did a somewhat goofy, quick segment where you had to blindfolded guess whether it was an EFlex 7 or a 7.9 pad. And I handed you both while you were blindfolded and you had to figure out which was which. I won't tell anybody how that went. It was genuine though. He was legit blindfolded and it was something we just thought would be fun to try.
Now I'm going to be honest with you. That video, when we first launched it, I got a lot of responses from teammates, guys that I played with over the years. And they're like, how is this any different than the way you play goal? Eyes closed, eyes covered. What's the difference? You can't see anything.
One of these weeks, we're going to have a moratorium on self-deprecation. I'll give up the dad jokes if you can give up the Woody jokes.
I don't have any other material, my friend. All I've got is self-deprecation.
Well, it'll be a short podcast.
And I make myself an easy target. What can I say? So there we go. The CCM EFlex 7.9 Heaton 10 line. The other part that I wanted to highlight there, I don't know. You can see it again in the YouTube video. But just for those who are listening to the podcast only, Cam mentioned you could get it in different colors by just going CCM 7, EFlex 7 all out and ordering the graphic. But of course, that would mean the graphic is printed on. Part of the beauty of this 7.9 design in the Devil's Brodeur colors is the fact that it is stitched on. And so there's a little bit of that old school stitch and sew feel to this pad they would look the same because what they do with the all-out graphics, I mean, you've seen our set. It's remarkable, but a little bit different when it's cut and sewn. So they bring that to you with this 7.9.
Our set, which made its debut in the Western Hockey League last night.
Let me tell you,
very nice to see.
Considering it's previously been worn primarily by me in summer beer league skates, that's the best it's ever looked.
It was fun. So there's one detail missing from the Brodeur pads that, I mean, it's probably good that it's missing.
Now you've got me
really
stumped.
make them authentic.
Well, there'd have to be
buckles on the toes.
Oh, buckles on the toes. Okay.
I mean, it's not a miss.
Are you going to make us take the knee stack right off this thing?
Well, no, I said there was something missing, but you're right. There was also something added. Yes.
Yeah, there was no. I remember watching Marty play later in his career and covering the league and looking at his pads, and it was just up until the final years, like it was just a stub. Like there really wasn't what we would consider a full landing gear area for him. I mean, again, one of those things that just makes what he did and the way he played so much more remarkable. So, yeah, hats off, obviously, to CCM for coming up with the tribute. I think it looks great. I love the 10, the logo, the graphic. I love that Heaton is stitched onto the side of the pad as well. Just the way they've incorporated the two is fantastic stuff. All right, we've done parent segment. We've done the gear segment. It is time to talk a little ProReads. Brought to you by Vizual Edge. Vizual Edge, as you've heard us talk about for several weeks, is a cognitive and vision training tool online on your computer, on your tablet, using their glasses, which you get when you buy the program. It is used by goalies right up to the top end of the game, including Jordan Binnington of the St. Louis Blues and Team Canada, not just at the upcoming Olympics, but the gold medal winner or championship winner at the Four Nations. Jordan Binnington was on Vizual Edge every game day as part of his Four Nation preparations and shared these thoughts about why he likes it. Vizual Edge has added a quality element to my preparation as a goaltender. I use the game day drills every game before heading to the rink. It's a combination of recognition, reaction, and focus that activates my brain and eyes to feel ready for what's to come.
I was just going to say, because now you're pulling out another tool where looking at a screen is helpful for a goaltender. And I forgot to bring that up when we were talking about Stop It You, the app as well. And if you dig into John Stevenson's article, which I would highly suggest that everybody do because he put a lot of effort into that and a lot of great detail, he mentions there is a difference because one is very purposeful use of technology for your benefit and one is not. And the way it engages your brain is very different. And you also pair it with some purposeful time away from the screen. So he's actually got a recommendation in the article for the amount of time you should spend away from the screen compared to the time with the screen, and even a ratio of time of looking and focusing on objects at a distance while using technology. So didn't want to suggest that you can't be on a phone. There are some great uses, including Vizual Edge, Stop It You, the app, and maybe even InGoalMag.com.
Well, I was going to say too, I'm not sure you can use Vizual Edge on a phone. I think it is pretty much, I think tablet might be the smallest you can do it on. We're going to have to look that up. It's the smallest I've done it.
I thought I tried it on the phone, but we will have to look that up.
My eyes are not good
I
enough.
could certainly imagine that you would prefer to use it on a larger screen. I mean, it's still screen time, but I think you would want to use it on a larger one just to fill your field of view as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Regardless, this is a tool that can be used and is used by the best in the game. And you can get a discount on Vizual Edge by using the discount code InGoal. All one word, all caps, INGOAL, and get 10% off all monthly and annual subscriptions to Vizual Edge mental, cognitive, and vision training tool. And of course, InGoal members, 20% off. I can't read the code out, folks. You got to be a member to receive it, which means you have to log in to our ProReads, and each week it will feature the code you can use to get 20% off Vizual Edge training. This week's ProReads, when you log in, features for second week in a row to celebrate his contract extension with the Calgary Flames, Dustin Wolf. And it was really interesting and a great example as Dustin Wolf broke down a rush chance started by Connor Bedard of the Chicago Blackhawks. So Bedard with the puck, skating down the wing, and a backdoor option going to the net. There were multiple elements to this ProReads. And the first one that caught my eye, because I think Bedard is one of these young up-and-coming players that, I think fair to say, can score from anywhere, has a wicked release, and has beaten goaltenders from distance. And yet in this case, Wolf was actually critical of the depth he chose off the rush with his heels on the edge of the crease and Bedard near the top of the circle, because in his mind, after watching Bedard in the replay, there was no way he was shooting and he wasn't dangerous from there. So there was no reason to be that far out. So what I love about Wolf in this pro read and throughout his pro reads is he's willing to look at his own video with a critical eye and share that with us. Like, hey, I don't need to be out that far. The threat is on my right on the back door driving the net. So that was one part of the pro reads. And you'll be able to, when you log in, see that, see the video, see what that looks like, see what it is visually that he's seeing in Connor Bedard that tells him the shot is not a threat from here. And then watch as he comes across, because this is different situationally. It's different from goalie to goalie. Some guys with that backdoor net drive want to stay outside of their posts, above their posts, because hitting the post itself can delay the top of your body, your upper body coming across into that save lane completely. It can sort of spring you off it a little bit. But in this case, Wolf talks about targeting the post purposely, and that is where he's going to with his rotation and his push, breaks it all down in the video, gives you a taste, not just of, hey, this is how I do it, but why he does it that way. And for one of the best in the game last season, Rookie of the Year finalist, adjusted numbers that were barely behind Connor Hellebuck on a per save basis when you factor in the quality of shots faced. Wolf breaks it down completely in terms of why he does it that way. That's all in our latest Pro Reads, online now at InGoalMag.com, and of course, brought to you by our friends at Vizual Edge. Hutch, anything stand out to you in that Pro Reads this week?
Just the fact that it's a great piece of content for people to watch and consider what they are teaching, what they are being taught, what they have learned growing up. That depth piece is especially coming from one of the smallest goalies in the National Hockey League. I think is so important for people to see, and it's a very clear situation to help you understand why that is so important. I mean, it's easy enough to say, you should stand here, here's the reason, but it's an absolute wonderful example of why depth matters and how it helps him make a save, even if he is critical and says that perhaps he doesn't need to be as far out as he is. And the fact that here's a guy facing, as you said, one of the top shooters in the game, and he can manage it at a conservative depth. The game is trending this way, both managing your depth and moving on your feet, being able to move on your feet as a result. And I just think it's a fabulous example. It's not, we don't look at pro reads always as this is how to make a save. It goes into so much more depth than that, and it gives you an understanding of the game and the thought process. I remember I was telling somebody this earlier today, Woody, that the brilliance of when you started Pro Reads, the fact that it puts a positive spin on what people so often on the internet love to jump in on, and that's criticizing a goaltender when a puck goes in the net and all the things they could have, should have done. And I remember you saying, we don't understand what it is that they see. We don't understand all the thought that is going into the saves that they're making, and we need to hear it from them. And I think this is a great example.
And I think it's another example of like, listen, we are not about telling you what to do, because there are there are 64 goalies in the National Hockey League on any given day. And I'm not sure there are two that play the game the exact same way. And so how goalies play, how they it's unique. And so learn from them. And I will say this, because we are 2 Dustin Wolf back-to-back Pro Reads in, and we have many more to come. We spent more than an hour with the Calgary Flames goalie heading into this season, breaking down video. Pay attention. I don't want to give it all away when we discuss this week's Pro Reads. I want people to actually have to log in and watch it. But pay close attention to each of the first two. When he talks, there's tactics. We've discussed the tactics. That's your depth. That's the decision to target the post on this backdoor push. But the mechanics, his triggers and his keys that allow him to move the way he does, to keep his feet under him as not just as well as any goalie in the league, but arguably better than any goalie in the league. UC Saros pointed that out to me last year. I asked him the stereotypical question about smaller goalies watching other smaller goalies. And Saros said, like, not only, it's not just that he's a small goalie, but I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but essentially there were things that he thought Wolf did better than anyone else in the game. And that's why he watched him, not because he was another quote unquote undersized goalie. Mm-hmm. And Wolf really does get into, again, his foundation, his keys, his mechanics that he believes allows him to play like that, even in moments where they're not perfect. And if you pay attention in these pro reads, he talks about them. It'll become a repetitive theme as we continue to go through. There's already one repetitive theme in the first two that you will hear him talk about in both in terms of what leads his movement. And so pay attention to those things because there are no absolutes in goaltending. But when you see somebody who's playing at a level like he is, and he's basically handing you his keys to doing it the way he does, not saying you have to do it, but I would suggest paying attention and maybe giving it a go.
I would suggest paying attention to the best in the business and maybe trying it. And I mean all the NHL goalies being the best in the business. And even then, it is still so hard. Let's not discount his ability to read what was happening there. Because you could tactically approach it exactly the same way as Dustin Wolf, and perhaps you could even skate as well as him and move as quickly as him. But if you can't read that situation the same way, you're in trouble. Because how many goaltenders would be frozen for just a 1/10 of a second on that pass, worried that Connor Bedard's going to put one past them? And that 1/10 of a second makes all the difference.
How many goaltenders would admit in retrospect that they had too much ice, that they didn't need to be that far out, and would feel like they were that far out and they had to hit the gas and go into emergency mode and make a big desperate move? The control with which he manages the situation is such a key to it. So he gets into all of it in this week's Pro Reads. Folks, I mean, obviously we're patting ourselves on the back here, but I can't tell you enough how much Pro Reads is invaluable, is a tool to learn how to read, understand, and manage the game at any level. Highly recommend it. Obviously, you have to be a member to get it, but we try and pay it forward with things like, hey, if you're a member, you get 20% off Vizual Edge. So make sure you check out the latest episode of Pro Reads with Dustin Wolf. We've got lots more coming. There is an archive in there that you get access to with over 300 of these videos featuring some of the best in the game. Connor Hellebuck, Thatcher Demko. We've got them all in there, so make sure you check it out. Okay, we're taking too long. We have a fantastic feature interview with Erica Howe coming up. But first, before we get to that interview, we need to talk about the presenting sponsor. And you talk about learning how to read the game, learning how to process the game. We've gone through NHL Sense Arena and their great 3-part system. And I got to say, working my way through the screen portion of that, how to manage screens, learning how to manage screens right now, there is so much in-game application to that I think it's a very valuable in-season tool. As much as it was presented as an off-season development tool, I think it's an invaluable in-season tool for just getting used to what we face once the season starts and traffic matters. But they've taken it another step. They've got a whole nother way to get you through a season by getting you through a game. Hutch, fill us in.
Sure do. It's here. Just announced today. Goalie training uninterrupted. You get to test your endurance and your focus now in NHL Sense Arena's new Game Flow module. It's found in goalie drills, and it provides non-stop action to challenge your mental and physical stamina. So we're not just doing a drill where we face some shots. We now have continuous action, a flow drill happening in front of you that goes on shot after shot. The drill continues uninterrupted. You make a save, say the puck goes in the corner. They've got an AI-controlled puck retriever, another player in the corner who grabs that puck, fires it up to the blue line, and things keep on going. And they've got brand new shooters. and looks to keep that practice fresh, even for the most experienced goaltenders. So you stay focused by tracking that puck's movement from the save to the corner, back to the blue line, through multiple passes, and always through a screen standing in front of you. The video flow is so realistic, so impressive. You can simulate maybe just a period if you'd like, or you can get right up to a full game to build your endurance and prepare for game day any day. We talked earlier about it being a great summer development tool, NHL Sense Arena. Now that you've done that, now let's start building your endurance. Young goaltenders, I was just talking with another goalie coach this morning, Woody, about the fact that getting the ability to stay focused through an entire game is a real challenge. As you get older, the games get longer, you're out there on the ice for a long time. And then he brought up that even at the beer league level, you've got to break your game down into shorter segments so that you can manage to stay focused and get through that full game. Well, now NHL Sense Arena gives you a tool to start working on that. So you have to stay focused for longer and longer. It's a really, really cool new feature. Really feels like game flow. And when you put that screen and puck retrieval, controlling rebounds and so on together, the action just keeps going, and it's fantastic. So check it out today, sensearena.com. As always, use the code IGM50 and you'll save even more.
I got to say, like we've been having discussions here at the InGoal Radio Podcast and outside, with friends and peers in the hockey world about playing time, about starting goalies, about backup goalies, about how absurd it is at what young age we get into that, about how maybe every goalie should play. We've got some stories that have come in sharing about just like kids at 14U where they've been declared the backup and don't actually get to play. They're not even alternating.
That should not be allowed.
No, that's crazy to me. We'll get to that maybe next week. But if your son or daughter is in one of those spots, or hey, they played last week's game and this week it's their turn to sit on the bench, as much as I disagree with that being the best way to handle it, here's a chance to get a game worth of reps. Like to get that feel. Come home, throw on the headset. You haven't stopped any pucks during the game, but you've gone through your game day warm-up and everything. Throw a headset on and at least live through it from that standpoint. So just another way, we've said this from the beginning, the amount that Sense Arena has, or NHL Sense Arena has developed and continued to build, is a big part of the program. When you purchase it, you aren't just getting what it is now, you're getting what it's going to be for the next 12 months, and it's constantly growing and improving. We've seen a lot of that in this past 12 months. Looking forward to seeing what's next, because they never stop growing.
I have a feeling if they had backups in beer league, you'd be down in the tunnel on NHL Sense Arena, just trying to stay ready, coach. Maybe not even on the tunnel, even on the bench, but then you're taking a bit of a risk.
I would 100% be using my warm-up stick in either regard, though. Dangerous situations there in the tunnel when you can't see what's coming at you.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have the Sense Arena headset on.
This week's interview this week.
I don't know how to segue to this, because we're going from
just did
funs and giggles to this week's feature interview, which is, there's a little emotion here. This is a serious topic, but one that our guest handles so well, and you're going to hear throughout this interview. You're going to hear Erica Howe talk about what she's been through, not just in her career. We get to the hockey, but in the past year in her cancer journey, and share her story in a way that is going to impact you and hopefully inspire you to get involved. Hopefully inspire you, if you ever have doubts about your own health, to make sure you get it checked out. Inspire you in many different ways. But this is not somebody, again, it will shock you to hear this after listening to her, but who naturally is comfortable in the spotlight, even though she was in it during her playing career a fair bit. And so the way she's gotten through this, the way she's managed that, the impact of her teammates, the world of hockey, the impact that her life as a goaltender and how it prepared her for this journey, we get into all of it. I'm going to stop talking now so that we can get to this feature interview. It's a can't miss one, loaded with some really inspiring stories that we hope helps others and inspires others. As I said, check the show notes for your opportunity to pitch in and be a part of her October Saves initiative. Without further ado, I've said too much. Erica Howe. Really excited to welcome to the InGoal Radio Podcast for the first time, Erica Howe. retired 1 year from an incredible career as a goaltender. She's got a national championship in the NCAA. She's got a gold medal with Team Canada at the Under-18 World Championships, CWHL All-Star ×2, and in the inaugural season of the PWHL, probably one of the sickest sets of custom pads I've ever seen. She is a firefighter by day and was well playing hockey and has spent the past year plus fighting cancer, now an ambassador for October Saves. Erica Howe, welcome to the InGoal Radio Podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
I wasn't sure where to start this because you've had this great career that I really want to dig into. But obviously the last year has been a challenge, and you've come out of it on the other side, embracing a spokesperson's role, as well as now with October Save. So let's start there. You retire from hockey. You're headed into a massive change in your life as you walk away from the game and into other things, and you get diagnosed with cancer. It seems so silly to say, what has the last year been like? Like, that's such a small question for such a big moment in life, but what has this been like to go through?
Yeah, I think, like you said, retired from hockey. One of the things I have been most thankful for is that I got the opportunity to retire from hockey, right? Like, cancer didn't take that away from me. I had already decided, like, I'm walking away from the game. I want to move on to different things. What's that going to look like? And then boom, kind of not too many months after, cancer hit. And I think the last year has been the hardest of my life. We talk about hockey and there's all the ups and downs, especially as a goaltender. You go through so much emotionally. There's high highs and low lows. And I think I always thought that was going to be the hardest times for me. And then cancer comes along, and when it becomes kind of life or death, am I going to survive this? What's this going to look like? It's a whole nother level of hard, and going through chemo, radiation, endocrine therapy, it took it to a whole new level. And I think as I go through, I was just really thankful to have the hockey community and the firefighting community. I am a firefighter, kind of at my back in a whole nother way than I ever thought possible.
That process as you, what actually, and from the importance of getting checked out, the importance of, staying on top of your health, of not ignoring, walk us through what, how you discovered it and some of the lessons there, because there are, as hard as it must be in the moment, now that you've come out and become more of a voice talking about your journey, there are lessons there. What are some of the, right down to diagnosis and the early days of it, the messages for other people?
I actually found a palpable lump in my left breast. And, I was joking around about it. It is pretty common for women in their 30s to have lumps. And I went to a charity ball hockey tournament with a bunch of my teammates and friends, and I had them kind of feel it, what do you guys think this is? What does it look like? And they were all like, go get this checked out, Howie. Like, it's funny, but go get it checked out. Just make sure it's nothing that I don't know if I would have taken the step without them kind of pushing me. So I do kind of credit, like, my teammates saved my life on that one, just being like, go get it checked out, whatever it could be. So I went through the whole process of biopsy. And then one morning I'm at work and I just get a call from my family doctor. And I'm like, I had my biopsy on Friday. If this is my family doctor calling me at 8 a.m. on a Monday morning, like, things probably are not good. I pick up, and sure enough, he says, it's cancer. The surgeon is going to follow up with you, but you don't know. Once you get that call diagnosing you with cancer, there's kind of a lag period where it's like you don't have any answers. I think that beginning period is the hardest to struggle through, where it's like, I have cancer. I don't know where this is going to go. Am I going to live at the end of this? Like, I have no clue. And that first kind of bit of period was the hardest part, honestly. I think as an athlete, once I got diagnosis, this is the end. It's stage 2. This is going to be your plan. That part kind of was easier to me, almost. Like, chemo and radiation come with their own battles, but having no idea of where it was going to go and that's when I really leaned on people. I didn't tell the whole world at that point. I kind of kept it to myself, told my firefighter colleagues, who I consider family. I told a couple teammates, but I really just needed time to kind of come to terms with it myself and understand what it was I was up against. And I didn't want a bunch of people asking me questions when I didn't have the answers, but my wife and I kind of stuck together. We told our close group of friends, and I think the one thing that came from that was just one foot in front of the other. Like you can only go one foot at a time. You have to continue going through your day to day. Like we'd be in tears and then we'd be like, okay, we have to go to work and we have to do something that makes us feel normal because it's so turbulent right now. We just don't know anything. So that's kind of what I tell people in the beginning. A lot of people reach out now and be like, just one foot in front of the other. And now that I'm on the other side of it, I think the most important thing to me that I've learned is just about values. And I don't know if you can really understand it unless you've gone through that period where you literally don't know if you're going to live, but just understanding who you are as a human and what's important to you. I think on the other side of it, that's where I am, where it's just like my family's most important. You know, I love going to work and being with my colleagues. I think making a difference for the next generation is huge. And we're like that in hockey. And I've taken that into my cancer journey. I think just knowing who you are and what you love as a human is super important.
We always hear things about people finding perspective, but there's probably like no greater sense of that than going through what you go through. It seems, it doesn't, I was going to ask you when you're talking about one step at a time. I mean, it reminds me of one of the mantras we hear in goaltending all the time, right? Like you can't stop the 30-second shot if you don't stop the first one. That mindset that is in goaltending so easy to say and so hard to do. To just take it one step at a time. Did any of the lessons from your great career, you know, as much as this is real life and death and not just the perceived of a game, were there any that helped you? Like the experiences, it's a tough position mentally.
Yeah.
Did it help you?
Yeah, 100%. People always ask me like, could you draw on your hockey experiences? I'm like, 100%. Like even like pushing through the hard times, like as a goalie, you don't decide when the game is happening. Like maybe you didn't get a good night of sleep the night before. Maybe you're not feeling your most confident, but you still have to go out there and perform. I think cancer journey is the same thing. Like you don't feel good, but you still have to be able to put one foot in front of the other and just focus on the now. I think in the whole of hockey, like we talk about leaving it better than how we found it. I think cancer is the same for me. I kind of alluded to that where it's like, I just want to do some good and leave it better. And I appreciate everyone who's come before me, who's been in trials, or scientists who, find the newest and greatest technologies so that I can have a better outcome. I think that's the same in the cancer journey. Also, just, you have to be present. I think as a goalie, I've been doing some coaching lately, and that's what I try and teach them, right? It's like one save at a time, one shot at a time. You get too far ahead of yourself. You're worrying about the other goalie. You're worrying about all that. Let's bring it back to you and what you can do. Like focus here and now, just one foot in front of the other. And that's it. I think I definitely took that into my journey this past year as well.
As you said, from diagnosis to going public, I think it was about 3 months, a lot to process in that time and a lot to go through. We've talked to other people about, what chemo and what radiation is like. It separates you, being immune compromised, from all the people that help you get through things. How did you find that battle? Like you've been a part of a team your whole life. You still have a team. You still have your teammates there for you, supporting you along the way. All your teammates for all your years. You got your firefighters. You have your family, but the contact with them can become kind of tough during those stages. How did you manage that part of it?
Yeah. When you're going through chemo, your immune system, or the type of chemo I went through, your immune system is kind of up and down. So there's parts where it's very low and then parts where it's not so low. So during those times where it was not so low, I'd try to just have touch points with people, and it had to be small group. So I might go to the fire hall for lunch, let's say, or like have a friend over to talk. The other thing I did during the year, like you said, I retired right before, but when I retired, I kind of wanted to step away from hockey and find who I was. So I was like, do I want to coach and leave and pass the knowledge on? Do I want to be a ref? Was in the mix. Do I want to just focus on firefighting right now? But when I was diagnosed with cancer, I was reaching for anything that made me feel normal, anything that made me feel like myself. So I actually this past year reached out to the Scepters, and they had me on in kind of like a equipment manager role, we called it. A lot of the time I ended up just going to the rink and hanging out with the girls or mentoring the other goalies that were there, because I obviously CJ Jackson and Kristen Campbell were there when I was there. So we still had those kind of touch points, but I would go to the rink and I would wear an N95 if it was my low time, or stay away from people, or if people were sick. But they were so awesome with me, just having me in when I could and giving me tasks to do and making me feel like I had some normalcy in my life while I was going through this very challenging thing on the other side of it. And I always said, like, those were my best days. Like, we joked about it being like my make-a-wish to be a part of the team, but my wife and I call it like my make-a-wish that saved my life, because it made me feel normal and made me like just do the things that I love to do.
So goaltending, which I would argue is the hardest position in sports, firefighting, which, requires a level of bravery and commitment that is up there with, has to be one of the hardest jobs in the world. And then you pick going back as an equipment manager, one of the most underappreciated, like that's the grind right there. Did you get to sharpen any skates? Probably no.
Yeah, they let me sharpen skates. So they have one of those machines that I think is a Blade Master or whatever. So I got to do the sharpening on skates. The only ones I wasn't allowed to touch were Kristen Campbell. She's very particular about her skate sharpening. Those were the only ones.
That's very goalie of her.
Yes, exactly. She fits the mold. But yeah, I know they gave me short hours. So I would call it like a quarter of a shift. They'd be there from 8 a.m. till 1 a.m. I would only go in for a few hours. I was lucky. They let me loose.
Okay, so goalies are very particular about their equipment. But did you learn anything about player quirks?
There's a few, like just more about like switching out gloves or like taking insoles out of skates and stuff. Like I didn't realize players were so picky. We had Hannah Miller in there every day looking at sticks, changing her specs and all that. I'm like, guys, this is for goalies. I didn't know players had so many like quirks about them too.
We get the bad knocks, but they do the weird stuff too.
Yeah. There's certain players, right? You pick them out and you're like, you could be a goalie for sure.
You had, I think it was December 21st against Montreal, where you had a night there with the Scepters, where speech at the end, and it sounds like the comfort you have right now talking to me about this journey, that's come with time. Not somebody who would normally have sought out the spotlight. Walk us through that night and what it's been like embracing this role outside of your comfort zone and why it's important to you.
Yeah, those first 3 months when I didn't tell anyone, that was part of it, right? I knew I was going to get so much support. Like, this is almost like a get real problems. Like, I have the support of the hockey community and the firefighting community. Like, those are two incredible people. So yeah, being able to come to terms with it on my own and accept help was definitely a huge part of it. And when I was ready to tell people, I had accepted it more. I threw it out in a group chat being like, guys, I would love to like find some good from this. If anyone has any ideas, like, please let me know. And then the December 21st game is what came from that little text, was just my friends and family kind of throwing it together. There was people who worked for the league in that group chat who are my close friends. And yeah, they threw together that game, which I almost wish I could put that feeling in a bottle and carry it around with me, of just like the love and support that I felt on that day when the firefighter guys were there selling toques and raising money. The women put on a show. They walked in wearing T-shirts and buttons and stuff like that. And then just to have the crowd acknowledge and cheer me on, it kind of just gave me strength to go through the next phases, right? Because that was mid-chemo and I was not feeling great. But then having that energy come down on me just gave me enough to push through. And on the other side, just having purpose, like, let's, do something to do some good out of this. And the bra toss obviously made me laugh there, that Bravado donated a bunch of bras that people tossed on the ice, and then they donated to local shelters for women. And then the speech after the game, they're like, would you like to say something? I'm like, I would love to be able to thank these people, but I'm not very comfortable. And they're like, just say thank you, whatever. They gave me the mic, and so many people have reached out since then, being like, that moment was so impactful. And I was just trying to get through and say a little thank you to all these people who I don't even think they've realized how much they did for me to push me forward and keep me going throughout the journey.
I want to talk about October saves and make sure that we put a good spotlight on there. And folks, like, if you're listening to this and wondering where you get involved, we'll have some links in the show notes for sure to October saves and how Erica's gotten involved there. But also, I look on your Instagram page and we see Ring the Bell, and we know what that means in a cancer journey. But I didn't ask and let people know, like, that stage, that process, what life is like once you get there. Is it a finish line? Like, just update people on where you're at from a health perspective right now. We've kind of left them hanging a little bit here.
Yeah, I would say the ringing of the bell is not a finish line. There is like an expression that I've seen thrown around where it's like when your house is on fire, you're grabbing your stuff and getting out, and you're not kind of reflecting and crying until you're on the front lawn. So you ring that bell, you made it out of the house, but then there's that part where you're on the front lawn and you're kind of looking at what just happened and you're trying to put your pieces back together. So I think I rang the bell in April. And post ringing the bell, I had to go through some endocrine therapy just because my cancer was hormone influenced. So there's a whole side of that where your hormones are like this and you're just trying to balance out. And, you're starting a new chapter of your life because I'm not the same person I was. So part of the mental side of that is finding who I am now. Like, what's my new normal? What does that look like? And while you're going through therapy, you're feeling like this. But I would say in the past 4 weeks, like, I've hit my stride of, okay, I can now work out and feel stronger. I've gone back to work as a firefighter, and not as a firefighter, but on light duties. But I go to work. I will attend a big call if there is a big call and I'm on a specialty truck that goes there. So in the past 4 weeks, I'd say like I'm hitting some normal. My doctor actually has said I can try playing hockey again. One of the first questions out of my mouth when I went to the oncologist was, can I play hockey? And she was like, no, you cannot play hockey. So this past week, I was like, okay, doc, 1 year later, same question. Can I play hockey? And she's approved me to play a little bit of hockey only as a player. And I was like,
okay, so but would that have been the choice anyways? Because yes. That's what I wonder, because so few, when a pro goalie retires, like, that's the last time they put on the pads. I wasn't sure if you were in that mold.
Exactly. I was thinking you might get that, and this podcast might get it, where it's like, the oncologist says I can only play player guys. I was like, can I get a doctor's note to bring to the guys at work and to everywhere else and saying I can only play player guys? Like, I think that might be a cancer perk here, is that I have to retire from goalie.
Oh, so you're going to betray us. Just don't give away all the secrets, okay? Like, you're allowed to tuck a few. You know where the goalie's moving and how they move. You're allowed to take advantage of that, but just don't be sharing it with everybody else, okay?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I do, I coach with a team, and I do try and be like, forwards, if you need anything, you know who to ask. Like, ask the goalies how to score.
I want to go back to that a little bit. Actually, first, before we talk about next steps and that discovery process you set out on before having all your attention pulled to the cancer journey, October saves.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, we'll have a link in the show notes so that people can get there themselves. We had the founder on a couple of years ago, where your voice, where your role, why that made so much sense to you to get involved. Perfect timing. We're 10 days away as we record this from October, and a chance for other people to get involved.
Yeah, I think I'm through the Canadian Cancer Society, and they helped a lot with the December 21st game, like getting everything set up with the scepters and that. And they reached out being like, we do this awesome initiative. Like, we'd love to have you on board kind of as a voice. And I was like hockey and cancer combined, goaltending, like, that is my MO. Like, I love all these things. I love being a part of something bigger than myself. Like, absolutely. So any goalies out there, if you want to sign up, I know cancer has touched so many lives. And myself, my dad passed away from incurable cancer, glioblastoma, when I was 16. So it's touched so many lives. And I think having breast cancer, I'm almost lucky because it's so well researched. There are so many cures, but there's so many cancers out there that are also don't have cures or don't have amazing treatment. I think just October Saves fundraises for all cancers in general. And I think any goalies out there, if they want to get involved, sign up online, October Saves. They have an Instagram. I have a team. How amazing if anyone wants to join, but it's a good way to have an impact and combines kind of some of our biggest passions as goalies, and for me now as a cancer survivor. Okay,
the passion that you have for the position, the passion that you had for the game, you weren't sure where that fit into the next step. As you start to, as you said, get back to a more normal, what you consider normal in the past month, where are you at with the game? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I've always done a little bit of coaching.
Okay.
I just like to stay involved and do things. But since diagnosis and that, like I've got more involved with coaching. I did a camp this summer with one of my friends, EJ, who's also a coach in the GTA. And I think that's where I'm headed, like passing down kind of the wise words of the game to the next generation. And when I'm coaching, like I really try and focus on navigating the emotions of the game. It's like every kid now does skills. Like they're all going to goalie sessions, they're all working on their skills. Where I think I like to focus my energy is kind of away from the ice almost. Like we'll do the on ice skills for sure, that's fun. But also like how do you handle your emotions? How do you handle when your goalie partner is playing amazing and you're not playing amazing? Because that's one of the most challenging things. Like you still have to be respectful and a good goalie partner, but I know it kills you inside, right? Kind of that kind of thing. So I've started doing that with a team. I have a few kids I work with just one-on-one, like focusing on that sort of stuff, like pre-game routines, post-game routines, visualization, that kind of thing. Like what can you do away from the ice to kind of help you get to that next level?
Okay, I'm gonna put you on the spot here, and
Okay.
we're gonna. This is gonna be like a sample of the coaching and the advice on the mental side, because you did go through that. Like you didn't get to play much in that final season before you retired, but when you did, you were really good. How do you manage that? I mean, and you had Soupy there, who I believe was goalie of the year in the first ever PW. So she's succeeding. You know you're capable of good things, but the opportunity isn't there. What kind of advice do you give to kids that are in that spot? Because that's not easy.
No, it's not easy, especially when you're a kid and you just want to play, right? Like, I think for me, when I was PWHL, like I had already gone and worked as a firefighter, like I had perspective. I wanted to come back and be a part of it any way I could. But then you got CJ there that first year, who was the third goalie, who didn't even dress, who also just had an amazing attitude. I feel like I learned a ton from CJ in that year. And what we always kind of would say together, CJ and I, is like, okay, you know yourself, right? I know I'm a great goalie because XYZ. Like for me, it's like I'm calm, I'm present, and I'm consistent. Like these are my bread and butter. I go to practice every day and I work on my game and try and be as good as I can be. Like I'll do everything I can to be amazing. I'll warm up well, I'll get on the ice, I'll perform well, I'll stay out late to work on the skills I want to work on. And then from there, it's the coach's decision, right? Like it's the coach decides who's playing. And then you have a choice from there about your attitude. Are you going to be sulky because that actually only really takes you down? Or are you going to say, okay, the coach picked that. That doesn't mean I change anything about my game. Like I keep moving forward. I keep trying to get better. And I support the other goalie because that's what's going to help the team be successful.
Does that include embracing some moments that are not necessarily goalie friendly in practice? Like that's the thing, when you're not necessarily playing all the time, somebody has to be, and I hate this word, but somebody has to be the target in those drills that just absolutely suck for us. And for the longest time, we used to talk about, like, people didn't realize, the outside world didn't realize how crappy those drills could be, and
Yeah.
how they could actually form bad habits if you got stuck in enough of them, right? And didn't treat them the right way. And I think we went about it the wrong way, sort of talking about that too much, as opposed to being like, and maybe it's sometimes giving kids an excuse to be like, what are we doing here? As opposed to, this is my moment to be here as a teammate, and maybe what can I pick something to get out of this? So how did you get through some of those tougher drills?
Yeah, that's also something I focus on with coaching too, is like, yeah, this drill sucks. It's like, so what? Like sometimes in games are not perfect. Like things happen that you can't control at all. This drill is a perfect opportunity for you to practice something. I think Devin Levi said like goalie practice is programming, right? Where it's like you're just doing it, like you're doing things perfectly, you're getting the reps in so that you can feel it and kind of form the habit. And then once you get to practice, like it's not going to be perfect. Like now we're practicing for a game, right? I think when you have like the 3-on-0 drill that they're just doing tap-ins, like that's my opportunity to work on my mental side of, I'm probably going to get scored on 10 times. Okay. I'm going to pick one thing I'm going to focus on. For me, it would be like being light on my feet, where it's like I'm not locked into anything. Like I can move gently. And now I'm going to focus on reframing this to be like, I'm going to do the best I can in this drill. Not this drill sucks. I'm going to get whatever I can out of it. I might get scored on. So I'm going to practice my reset routine of being scored on in a game. And then I'm just going to go as hard as I can and have fun with it. Where I know I'm not going to get my X's and O's and perfect glove save out of it. That's for goalie practice. I'm just going to go hard because it's going to make the team better. That's it.
Pay off? Like, did you find you get into games? Like I know the final year there were only a handful of games, but like at other points in your career, obviously you had a great career. Like you said, 2-time CWHL All-Star, 4 years at Clarkson. The save percentages, by the way, video game numbers, those are so absurd. And the national championship. Did you find moments along that path where like that attitude absolutely paid off for you?
100%. Like, I think when you have the attitude of like, oh, this drill sucks and I hate this, like you walk away from the ice and you take that with you, and it takes away your mental energy. Like if you're have a gas tank of energy, like the moment you focus on it and you give it any life, like it takes away your mental energy. Whereas if you just go into the drill, reframe it, do it, and then you walk away, now you have the mental energy to do something else, to do a proper cool down and relax and decompress from the game and move on to the next thing.
But the value of approaching it that way, of competing, of having fun and the right mindset, teammates see that. They also see the goalie that goes, oh, this sucks, and stops trying. Do you feel like if you can, like, do you get more out of them? Because when you get to a game, right, you might need somebody to lay out on a back door that you didn't quite get to, or, you know, get in a lane that's going to be a tough lane to be in and eat a puck. Can that battle that you show in moments in practice be paid back? Have you had examples of your career where whether it's one way or the other, or for somebody else, where you recognize the value of being that teammate in practice coming back in games?
Yeah, it's always the case, right? Like if you are willing to lay it out in practice and give everything you can, like the girls will, or the guys will pay it forward to you in a game. I think when I think of one of the games I played in my first PW year there, it was Boston. And we were on a 10-0 run, and Troy was like, yeah, you're going to go. And I'm like, I really don't want to ruin this run, Troy. And the girls did not necessarily show up for me that game. Like I think about it and laugh because they were like exhausted. We had just gotten back and they didn't show up for me that well. And they were kind of like, show up for Howie, guys. Like she's playing a game, but it makes me laugh. But then I think about CJ this year. CJ will stay on the ice and take 300 shootouts at the end of practice. You want to practice your shootouts? CJ's out there doing 300. And then this year, Siege got the nod for a game, and the girls showed up for them, and it went to a shootout, and Siege stood on their head and didn't let in a single goal. And I think that's like my most recent example. The team just like laid it all on the line for Siege. And after the game, we're so excited to celebrate them in the locker room. And the Scepters let me hand Siege the game puck for their first PWHL win. And it's just like, I talked about the shootouts and staying out on the ice, and everyone was just so excited for them to get that win.
They are incredible. We've had CJ on as a guest before. The support you got from them, like I saw the mullet and the shave stuff like that. Like it's kind of hard to put into words, I guess. Like I've only been able to be around CJ through the podcast and this. I'm so happy. Like she's now just down the road. We've got a team
Seattle.
here in Vancouver, seeing this growth. Like it was one of the hardest things at InGoal is we recognize we want to be around. We want PWHL ProReads at InGoal magazine. We want to build those things, but we were kind of small. We haven't had the budget to travel, so we kind of always had to wait for the PWHL to come through town on more of a barnstorming type tour. And now it's going to be in our backyard, and we're so excited, including the chance to work with CJ and see them more often. Can you put into words how special Carly Jackson is? It's kind of a tough spot here.
That's what I talk about, Siege being that third goalie the first year, and not a single minute did Siege pout or get grumpy. Like they just work their tail off and try to get better. And then this year they start in a playoff game, in a do or die playoff game, and we're unbelievable. Like I think Siege is one of those people that's just a little ray of sunshine that you want to carry around with you, because their energy and their just perspective on life is so beyond their years. Like I'm like, you're 5 years younger than me. You're so much wiser. Like I learned so much from them, just that not only as a goalie, but just like a human being, and understanding that you put in the work and then things just happen. And if you just keep putting in the work, you get to start a playoff game eventually. Like you work hard to earn it. And yeah, Siege with the whole mullet thing, it was actually me, Siege, and Soup went out for our year-end goalie dinner.
Okay.
When they came back to town for the second year, we like waited to do it. And I was like, Siege, like I might have to shave my head here. Do you think you would come make me feel more comfortable, because they are just such a nice human being, and give me a mullet? And Siege was like, for sure, buddy, I'd be honored. Like, okay, good. And it did. It made such a difference, like having them there with me to do that.
Make sure you check out Erica's Instagram page, because there's a lot of these moments have been captured, and you just, at the end of the day, I'm supposed to be a wordsmith, but I can't put into words some of the emotions that come through in those videos and in those moments and in those messages. I gotta ask, how'd you get started in goal?
Yeah.
You know this is one of our favorites. We got to rewind a little bit.
Yeah, so my parents are from England. They immigrated here, so they knew nothing about hockey.
Oh, okay.
So then when I was 4, like I was just like, yeah, I want to play hockey. And they were like, how about soccer? I'm like, no, hockey. They're like, okay, Canadian dream, let's do it. And then I saw The Mighty Ducks, the first movie where they go to the store and they get all their new gear. And the goalies, like Goldberg, the goalie, gets the chest protector and that. And I was just like, I want to be a goalie. This is the classic goalie tale. Like the
Did they
equipment
have
is
to tie
so
him
cool.
into the net?
Yeah, they had to tie him into the net. And I was like, look, it doesn't hurt. And my parents were like, now we're playing hockey. Now you're a goalie. And they were against it for so long, and I just kept beating them down. Anytime that bag would go around and be like, me, I want to be the goalie. And then one day my dad took me to the store and I got like these really massive secondhand pair of goalie skates. And that's when I knew, I was like, oh, my parents are going to let me play goalie. And my dad actually, I lived in Ottawa, so we went to the canal and we skated on the canal in my fresh new massive goalie skates. And I was eating it because, the toe pick on there. But I was just like, I was so happy to get my goalie skates and know that I was finally going to be allowed to be a goalie.
Oh, that's one of the best origin stories we've had. It's usually, you've heard them if you've listened to like, it's quite often it's a sibling, but the gear, we've had a few gear ones. I'm not sure I've ever had Goldberg getting his gear as part of the origin story. That's amazing. Yeah. The passion for it as it grew. At what point did you get to, like, hey, like this is something I can do at a collegiate level, at a national team level? And who were some of the guiding influences along that path? I feel like from the outside, it feels like you talk about goalie coaching and how everybody has one now. I feel like on the women's side, sometimes that was later. The number of times I've talked to female goaltenders who like, oh, my first coach was in college, at a time where on the guy's side, they'd be like, I had a coach at 9, which not necessarily a good thing, by the way.
Yeah.
Where was it for you?
It was definitely later in life. I played boys hockey growing up, like just locally. We didn't really have, I remember them getting AAA in Ottawa, and like when I was in like grade 10 or 11 or something like that. So I just played locally with the guys. So I didn't really think about it, right? Like I just loved playing hockey with my teammates. And in guys hockey, like you're only 1 year. So I played with the same guys all the way through. And then around grade 8 or grade 9, like someone on the girls' side reached out and was like, just so you know, in Ontario, to play for Team Ontario, you have to play girls hockey. I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, I have no clue.
Just out there playing.
Yeah. And then I did end up going and playing on like a girls' spring team. And I think someone took my parents under their wing and tried to explain to them how it worked. And that was my intro. And then in grade 11, I made the switch to girls hockey, to the junior league here in Ontario. And that's when I kind of started understanding like, oh, there's scouts at these games. Like, oh, there's a Team Canada U18. Like I had no clue, but I knew I wanted to try and play for Team Ontario. So kind of around then, but I would say like I didn't start taking it super seriously until almost after college.
So you were just out there competing and everything on instinct?
Yeah, like we had one of our coaches at university was a goalie, so we would do video and have a couple goalie sessions, but not like it is today. It was mostly like work on one thing. And then after college, I kind of got invited to the big girl camp, like the senior national team camp. And throughout college, I had been invited to the development team and I never made it. Like I I call myself like most invites without making the team, like most consecutive cuts. I think I had like 6 or 7 times I was cut from this development team. And I went to the big girls camp. And throughout the summer leading up to that, I trained with Geneviève Lacasse in Ottawa.
Yeah.
And a senior national team goalie. And she was like, you have to have the dog in you. Like, you have to have the lion in you. You have to want it and go get it. You can't just be passive and let this happen. And that was kind of the moment that twisted for me. And I think back then, the women's hockey landscape, like, there was only one team to play for. Like, we had the CW, which was kind of like glorified minor league hockey. You had like, everyone had a job. You had 2 practices and 2 games a week. So there was only one team. And to have this senior goalie come and be like, I want this for you, buddy. Like, you have it. Like, you just have to change how you think and how you train, and you have to actually go for it. You have to be a little bit vulnerable here, because I think I was just like happy go lucky and I'll just do whatever, but I'm not going to put myself out there. I'm just going to play. And she was like, you have to kind of admit that you want it and go after it. And she kind of dragged me along. And it was like, if this is successful, Lacasse, I might be coming for your spot. But I think that's when you have true, you've made it, is when you're comfortable in yourself, comfortable in your game, so that you're willing to help other goalies, because that doesn't really impact how your game goes.
That's great advice there. Like, at the end of the day too, like that competitive level, admitting that you want it, like, that can be scary too, right? Like, you're killing like, at that stage, if I've got the timeline correct, like, you're, like I said, like 940s, 938s, like, just like numbers I'm not familiar with in the NCAA national championship. Like, you're dominating at that stage, but you went into those camps not chasing, not feeling it, not.
I'd say some of
just
it's
happy
not
to be there.
Not preparing enough. Okay. I'd say, like, I was always like a very skilled goalie. I think that obviously I didn't chase it much, but I didn't work enough on the mental side of it.
Okay.
I'd go there. It's in the summer. Once I got reps in, I was great. In October, I was maybe the worst goalie you could be. But then once I got reps in, like by March, like I could win a championship, right? Because you have the reps under you. But most of the Hockey Canada camps are in August.
Right.
And it's like, if you don't prepare properly, if you don't mentally get your game right and have all your tools ready to go to help you fight through things, you don't have that longevity to adjust things on the go like you would in a season. I think that's where I definitely was challenged. That's where I didn't have my skill set, or I wasn't dialed in as was on that side.
And these are lessons you can convey now to
exactly.
Athletes.
I think that's why I'm passionate about coaching too. Is like, let's learn these lessons. Like, we have all the on ice, you guys have all that, but let's find what works for you off the ice, so that when things do go awry, you already have it in place. And I think that was kind of where I lacked, and Lacasse helped drag me through that as well. Just like focusing in on it and really being vulnerable to the process and opening up and being like, I do want it, so I'm going to go after it.
Lacasse, CJ in her way, some of the other influences along the way for you in your career?
Big one is Liz Knox. She was the CW goalie when I got there, and it was the same thing as Lacasse. They're kind of the same age, Lacasse and Knoxy. She was the same way, like, just love hockey. Let's do it together. The coach makes the decisions. Let's just go. And I will say, like, so Lacasse and Knoxy were kind of the ones that dragged me along. And then when we circle back, like, to that first PW season, like, I put Lacasse and Knoxy on my helmet, just like as a reminder of, like, those are the women who laid the path for me to get there. And then I think about my role in that first season, and I felt like I was a Knoxy or Lacasse, trying to pass it down to Soupy and CJ of, this is what I was taught, and this is how we work together so that the team can be successful.
You were a part of the transition from, as you said, the CWHL and, professional league, but not at a level that allowed the athletes to really focus on their games. They had to focus on other jobs. There wasn't the training, the practice facilities, all those things were just not at the highest level. You're a part of the PWHPA, trying to lead the game to where it ultimately got, or where it is now, at least with the PWHL. Where are we now? When you look at the success, we talked about the expansion, Seattle, Vancouver. Where do you think the game's at now, and what needs to happen to make sure it continues to grow?
Yeah, what I see now is just amazing. Like, I think that first season we played in the Bell Center and sold it out, and I was in tears. And some of the young kids were looking down the bench being like, "You good, bro?" I was like, "I don't know if you guys truly understand what we went through to get here." And I think that's one of the coolest parts about that first year is that we had some of the players left over who went through the grind, right? Where we worked so hard to get this league. We're like, you guys, we have equipment, we have practices, we have full-time staff. Like, we had to work so hard to get here. But then you see the next generation come in and they want more. And it's like, yeah, we should have more. Whereas like we're kind of satisfied with just the league and how it was and it's set up. And we played in that in Mattamy, which was tiny, but the next generation coming in demanding more. Like, I think both generations are super important. Like, let's be humble and thankful for all we have, but also let's push for more. Like, let's, hopefully we get charter flights or better meals, better accommodations, stuff like that. And even from the first year to the second year, you could see it a bit more, but it's like, we want everything taken care of so that we can go on the ice and perform to the best of our abilities. I think the next gen is really good at pushing that.
Wait, because you're right. Like, they're more like an NHL schedule, but no charter flights. Like, you're flying commercial. That's a grind. It's funny because I can sort of relate, not personally, but in my industry, having peers that try and keep up with an NHL team flying commercial and how much of a mental and physical drain and demand that it's almost impossible. So to do it and then actually not just have to sit there in front of a computer when the puck drops, but actually stop the damn thing against some of the best players in the world, that's tough. So there's still steps to go, but incredible steps that the league and the game has gotten to.
Yeah, and I think you see the fan engagement too is just amazing. Like, the fans are everything, right? Like, especially people who have been there since day one. So it's just so cool to see. And I can't wait to see where it gets to in like 10 years. Because right now, that will be like the U15 age, right? And they see the PW. They will strive for the PW. It's kind of like what we see in the WNBA right now, where it's been around 30 years now. It's the women coming up have had the WNBA their whole lives. It's like,
a goal.
They see it. So I think in 10 years from now, it'd just be incredible to see like where it will go and what it will look like.
Are we going to see Erica Howe goaltending coach for some expansion team that we hadn't even imagined 10 years
Probably,
from now?
Yeah, Hawaii, right? Hawaii Orcas. I think that's the running joke.
I like the way you think. There's a road trip I could get on board with.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, listen, this has been fantastic. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us. Thank you for, as someone who wasn't comfortable in the spotlight early, for being willing to embrace it and share your message, important messages. And now continuing with October Saves. Like we said, it'll be in the show notes, folks. Make sure you check it out. Look forward to future conversations down the road, Erica. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
The one thing that I will say coming out of that, and I said it to her, we talked about it afterwards. We spent a lot of time, obviously, on the past year and what she's been through, but there's more to the journey too that got her up until that point and through her career. She is you could tell, right? Like, just a passionate goalie. Mm-hmm. And with some different roots in the game, not a lot of technical instruction at a young age, did a lot of it on instinct, just starting to transition into coaching. Seems like that's a passion that she's found through this journey. And I can't wait to keep in touch with her because I believe that there's a very good part 2 waiting here for more of those lessons that we heard a bit of, that she learned about the mental game, about the on-ice game, about the approach during her career and how she transitions to coaching and teaching others those lessons. So we've got it already set up down the road. We will have Erica Howe back on the InGoal Radio Podcast. Also, somebody I loved when she talked about the next generation that's coming right into the PWHL and being a part of the previous generation, that being so excited to see that the next generation isn't satisfied with the status quo, but not wanting them to realize how far they've come to get to where they are right now. And I think she didn't say it, and maybe this will be part of our topic down the road, but when you look at all those years, I mean, almost 4 seasons where she was in the PWHPA, where there wasn't a formal league and there was more just barnstorming exhibitions, and how few spots there were in that organization to be a regular goaltender. There was a lot of sacrifices made by a generation of players that she was at the forefront of to sort of get to where they are in the PWHL right now. And so it's nice to see. Obviously, you probably heard the excitement in my voice. Like, we're really excited that we've got Seattle and Vancouver and the PWHL basically coming through our backyard now in the upcoming season. It's going to be so much easier to access it. We have so many things we want to do there. And pioneers like Erica Howe and the players and the goalies that, went through the CWHL when it was basically, as she said, just like glorified minor pro hockey where you had to have a side job and, practices were at weird hours and there was no athletic staff and nobody to take care of you, to where we are now and the growth. They deserve major credit for that. And so glad to see it's growing. Glad she got that final year in the PWHL. And as she said, 921 save percentage, by the way, folks. So she didn't get to play a lot, but when she did, she was good as she was throughout her career. So, looking forward to spending more time with her as she gets into the coaching side of the game.
Game has come such a long way, and I'm super excited that we're going to be able to have so much more content from the PWHL as we need to.
And including Carly Jackson, who CJ, as you heard her talk about, down the road now in Seattle, just another person they absolutely love this position and this game, and it comes out in every conversation, and you can learn so much about the way they play the game and the way they approach the game. We got a lot of those lessons from Erica today. Just looking forward to so many more of them. So we've still got like a month and a half before the PWHL season starts. We're right at WHL, as you said, it's kicked off for you. You got another game to watch tonight. NHL season is around the corner. We'll have Darren back next week. Like we said, out on assignment with the Vegas Golden Knights. I'm not sure.
We got exhibition games this week, yeah.
We got exhibition. Darren's at an exhibition game tomorrow.
But there you go.
I'll be covering exhibition games this week. So a lot of news around the league that we didn't get into today, including Connor Ingram basically agreeing to part ways with the Utah Mammoth. There is a big part of me that feels like it's a little dirty anytime somebody comes out of the program and is immediately sort of had to cut ties with his team, but we don't have his side of it. It may be a mutual thing. I honestly don't care about the behind the scenes stuff. Hopefully it was all handled properly. All I care about is that Connor Ingram, the person, is feeling better. And I can tell you that if Connor Ingram, the person, is feeling good, Connor Ingram, the goaltender, in the right situation, in a situation he's comfortable with, will absolutely benefit whatever team either claims him or trades for him or acquires him. He's an exceptional goaltender, but first and foremost, what we worry about the most is just that Connor Ingram, the person, is in a good spot. And if that's the case, then we'll worry about the hockey later. So we'll leave that there for now, unless you had anything you wanted to add, Hutch. I kind of threw another curveball at you, another pitch in the dirt.
Nope, pass ball. I missed that one.
You're not going to rake, just going to leave me with another error on the pitching side, eh? Okay, attaboy.
No. I said that one's a pass ball.
Oh, you're taking, the catcher's taking that one.
I should have been able to handle that one a little bit better, but it's okay.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll have some answers on that and hopefully some direction. I mean, how about all the training camp stories? Like there's all but like at the end of the day, 26 years into covering the NHL, the number of times I've seen people get excited about early preseason, early training camp, and it's like, let's just all take a breath and see how this all plays out.
Give it a chance to play out. I was just going to say, speaking of the Utah Mammoth, how about Karl Vejmelka's pads? Might be the most beautiful set I've seen in the National Hockey League. The new Brian set.
Yeah, that is gorgeous. And our friends over at Brian's outdone themselves again. Did you see Igor Shesterkin's 100th anniversary pads?
I like them a lot.
How about the Vaughns that Jonathan Quick has on for the Rangers 100th anniversary?
I've not seen those.
Oh, check.
Not seen those.
Folks, go find that one. I've been dropping the ball at the InGoal social media channels if that hasn't been out there for Hutch to see, because they're gorgeous. Nice job by Vaughn. Nice job by Brian's with Igor's set. Vejmelka.
Probably a lot more coming.
There's a bunch more coming. Some gear changes for some guys. Guys getting first opportunities at the number 1 spot. New tandems, battles for backup jobs. And as much as we didn't want to get overexcited this week, by the time we reconvene next week, I think we'll be far enough along in the preseason that we can dig into some, there'll be enough meat on these bones that we can dig into a little bit. So looking forward to getting back to talking a little more about the National Hockey League at the start of next week, and tandems around the league. But for now, I think we've had about enough of me. Let's get Darren back so we can have less Woody, more Darren, more Hutch. Thank you for putting up with me in charge of this week's InGoal Radio podcast.
Thanks, Woody.